Today I'm going to talk about how reading aloud helps us become better parents and our kids better musicians. Join me in Adventures in Suzuki Parenting. Hi, I'm Jody St. Clair, and this is Adventures in Suzuki Parenting. I create videos to help parents conquer the challenges of practicing by having practice tips and ideas and making the environment fun. If you've been following this channel for a while, you know that I like to talk about reading. I have a whole series of videos dedicated to reading baby and toddler books and adding musical elements and sounds. So if you are interested in that, you can check that out. Today I'm going to be talking about how important it is to continue to read aloud to our children and why that might be really important for you. Make sure you hit subscribe to get new tips every week. And if you're reading a book aloud with your child right now, please share what you've been reading down below. I love to get new ideas and hear what you've been up to. So share what you've been reading down in the comments below. You've been reading with your child since they were a tiny baby. You've probably spent hours with a baby or toddler on your lap reading the same books over and over until you had them so memorized you could do it in your sleep. But today we're going to talk about why we're going to continue to read aloud and how important it is to maintain that connection with our children. So I'm not just talking about reading to babies or toddlers. I'm talking about when they become independent readers themselves and can read the books themselves. There's several reasons that this can be a really important thing for you guys to enjoy together. The first thing is that picture books often have richer language than beginning chapter books. So even if your child is reading beginning chapter books on their own, incorporating picture books into your reading can continue to expand their language abilities and really just have more exposure to different words and different vocabulary. That's kind of the academic reason for it. But I would say that the real part of it that speaks to me the most is the fact that you get a connection through story. So that's really where we're going to focus our time, because I think that is where we really become better parents, and that is where we're going to help our kids become better musicians through story. So when you are reading together, you get to share in that experience of the story, and that is a deep connection you can have with your child. Those stories can become part of your family story also. They can become part of your family culture as well. And even better if it's really everybody reading all together and experiencing it as a family. Even though your child may be reading completely on their own, having a book where you are reading it together can be a great bonding experience. And when we have great bonding experiences, we become better parents. If you haven't heard of reading aloud together through even the teen years, I have a couple of resources that I use when I was, and what really exposed me to this idea. The first one has been around for a while. It's called the Read Aloud Handbook, and by Jim Trelease, I think is how it's said. So this is been revised many times, and it's such a great resource because it kind of talks about that great connection that we have. And then there, in the back, there's an extensive book list based on age with little summaries of what the book is about and everything, so that you have an idea of what are some things that you could be reading aloud together. The other one is a newer book by Sarah Mackenzie. It's called The Read Aloud Family, and she has a podcast called The Read Aloud Revival. This one also has an extensive book list at the end, and also talks a little bit about why it's so important that that we continue to read aloud to our children. So either of those are great to pick up. You can find links to both these books down below. what I really like about what Sarah Mackenzie talks about, and it relates to us as Suzuki parents, is that she talks about reading as being like circles. So we tend to think of it as very linear, like we start with board books, and then we graduate to picture books, and then we graduate to easy chapter books, and then we graduate to harder chapter books, and then middle grade novels. So instead of thinking of graduating, you think of it as concentric circles. So we start with this core of the picture books and even the board books, and then you're going to go out from that, but you don't ever leave those initial books. When I was hearing about this, I thought, oh my gosh, that's review. We do this in Suzuki all the time. So you have this core of pieces that you're constantly adding to, and that is what's really going to give you high musicianship. So if you're wondering more about review, I have some different videos about how to make review fun and how to keep it fresh and how to keep it going really well. So you can check those out on my channel. So let's now talk about how reading together, having that great connection, and really exploring story can make us better musicians. When we play a piece, what we are really doing is communicating something to our audience, whether the audience is a parent or a friend or a concert hall. We are communicating feelings, we are communicating events, we are communicating a story. So why I think that reading aloud is super important for our children to become better musicians is actually because they understand story better. They understand not just reading a story and doing it themselves, but sharing a story and with their family members, being part of a story and being able to discuss and communicate about what that story is. So when I ask a student to tell me part of the story of this music, if they are familiar with telling stories and being part and communicating stories, they are going to be able to better do that on their instrument. They're going to be better informed about what those emotions might feel like, what they might sound like, how they can better communicate those emotions to the people around them. Reading aloud will make better musicians for our children because we will be able to share in that connection together. And I can't think of something that is more Suzuki than that. It's nurtured by love, and it's really sharing the music together, which I think a lot of parents jump into this journey initially because they want their children to have a love of music. And this is one of the great pathways to it. So just to recap real quick, remember that you do not need to stop reading aloud when your child is independently reading. Enjoy that time together. Enjoy the connection together that you will get through story. Then, when you guys are practicing and you're trying to figure out how a piece is emoting or how a piece is communicating, you will have a whole reference of stories that you can pull from in order to make a more effective communication and a more mature type decisions about musicality. Telling stories is closely related to what we do as musicians, and finding the connection between the two will not only strengthen the bond with your child, but help them develop musically in a really natural way. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to click on like and subscribe so you can get notifications every time a new practice tip comes out. I create videos for any stage, any age, and any instrument. Thank you for joining me on this adventure in Suzuki parenting. Happy practicing.